So, are you quite good at speaking English? Yeah. Quite good? Yeah. Well done. The poem Lament is about a horrible war. All war is horrible. A war that happened between Iraq, which dropped bombs on the city, or the state of Kuwait. There's a lot of oil, gas in Kuwait. America got worried. So they sent their military in to save Kuwait and to save the oil in Kuwait. Britain joined in the fight. Is that okay? Am I going slowly enough, do you think? Is that
yes?
Okay. Okay. So while that war was happening, Iraq set fire to the oil wells, and they burnt and blazed, and the oil flowed into the sea, and it killed the creatures of the sea, and it destroyed the land. What is the point of destroying the land and the sea? I felt sad and angry that this was happening. A lament is a special tune, piece of music, played on a trumpet, maybe, on a blowing instrument, and it laments sad things, it laments death. You play it when you play a tune, a lament, when perhaps a soldier is going to his grave. At a funeral, maybe. I'll read this poem now. In the poem are all the creatures who were hurt by that war, and the people who were hurt by that war, and I heard all of the names, all of these things on the radio, on television, or in the newspaper. So, true things. But my imagination saw more than the newspapers told me. Lament for the green turtle with her pulsing burden in search of the breeding ground, for her eggs laid in their nest of sickness, for the cormorant in his funeral silk, the veil of iridescence on the sand, the shadow on the sea, for the ocean's lap with its mortal stain, for Ahmed at the closed border, for the soldier in his uniform of fire, for the gunsmith and the armourer, the boy fusilier who joined for the company, the farmer's sons in it for the music, for the hook-beaked turtles, the dugong and the dolphin, the whale struck dumb by the missile's thunder, for the tern, the gull, and the restless wader, the long migrations and the slow dying, the veiled sun and the stink of anger, for the burnt earth and the sun put out, the scalded ocean and the blazing well, for vengeance and the ashes of language. Now, I'll say a bit about some of the things. I love animals. I live in Wales, not England. I live in Britain, but I live in Wales. It is a country with its own government, its own language, its own culture. And I heard, and I love the animals and the fields and the trees. I love the natural world. And the human beings most of the time, especially if they're young like you, because you are going to change the world. You will put an end to war, won't you? Will you stop all war, please? I hope you will. You look as if, when you were singing and dancing, I thought, this is the future, and it is good. All of you are the future. The green turtle with her pulsing burden. Inside the green turtle, who had gone to the breeding ground to have her young turtles, were all the baby turtles in their eggs who were going to be born. They would be born into a filthy sea, blazing with oil. So they would die immediately. The green turtle in search of the breeding ground, for her eggs laid in their nest of sickness. The sea itself was sickness. For the cormorant in his funeral silk, this was a photograph in the newspaper of a cormorant that come out. I'm sure you've seen animals, birds, covered with oil in the newspapers. For example, when the terrible disaster happened, not so very long ago, was it in the Bay of Mexico? The oil tanker, the oil well, right. And the birds were all covered with oil and they can't swim and they can't live, they can't breathe, they can't feed, so they die. So I saw this poor cormorant being carried, I think, because they were going to try and clean the oil from his feathers. Funeral silk. Silky, but wearing his own clothes of death. Funeral silk. Iridescence, the veil of iridescence. Iridescence is very beautiful. It's the colours of the rainbow that we see in bubbles, but also in oil, gas on the ground. So these birds, the sea was iridescent, beautiful colours, but they too were the colours of death for that sea. The ocean's lap. There are two meanings to lap. The sea laps on the shore. The little sound of lap, lap, lap on the shore. It is also the mother's lap, with the baby held on the lap, on your two knees, or on the father's knee, the baby on the lap. The lap is a safe place for children. The lap is the mother, the father, the grandmother, anyone in the family, or anyone who gathers a child on his lap to be safe. And so in this case, the ocean's lap was not safe. It had a mortal stain, a stain of oil, the dirt of the oil. For Ahmed at the closed border, I made this up. It's a common name in the Middle East, Ahmed. People were trying to run away from Kuwait, from the war, and they were stopped by the soldiers and sent back. Ahmed and many others at the closed border between one country and another.